So hello, everyone. My name is Magnolia Perron. I work with the National Aboriginal Capital Corporations Association, also known as NACCA, as the Indigenous Women and Youth Program Officer and Team Lead. I'm calling in today from the traditional Algonquin territory here in Ottawa, Ontario. I'm joined by my colleague, Kimberly. So I'll pass it over to Kimberly to introduce herself, and then we'll start our presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Magnolia. I'm Kimberly Gorgachuk, and I work alongside Magnolia. I'm actually broadcasting to you today from the traditional territory Treaty 6 in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm originally born and raised in Ontario, but I actually reside now in Alberta, and I'm really excited to be a part of this coffee date today. So I'll let you take it over, Magnolia. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, thank you so much, Kimberly. I also just want to give a shout out to our colleague, Michael. He's in the room with us today. He's part of our NACCA team as well. And maybe, Kara, if it's okay with you, I'll also pass it over to Michael to introduce himself briefly.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks so much, Magnolia. I'm really excited to meet everyone here and hear your input throughout this presentation in the second half. I'm working right now as a program officer with Magnolia and Kimberly through basically a 4-month interchange I'm having actually, as my current full-time role is with Indigenous Services Canada. But I'm here helping out NACCA, and I'm helping out right now, at least with hopefully our grant and mentorship program we're hoping to potentially roll out within the Indigenous Women's Entrepreneurship program. So love to hear you guys' feedback later on the presentation, and I will then pass it back to Magnolia. So thank you guys.
Wonderful. So I think we have about 15 minutes or so together, and I have a presentation that I'll go through, which will provide a little bit of background information on NACCA, our women's initiative, and our recently launched Indigenous Women's Entrepreneurship program. And then we'll open it up for discussion. And if folks have questions, we'll be more than happy to answer those. So just bear with me one moment as I share my screen here. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see my screen okay. I'm seeing a thumbs up from Kimberly. Wonderful. Okay, so first I just wanted the background information on NACCA for those of you who are not familiar. NACCA is a national Indigenous organization based in Ottawa, Ontario. We're a network of over 59 Aboriginal financial institutions across Canada. And essentially our network of Aboriginal financial institutions are Indigenous owned and controlled community-based financial institutions that provide Indigenous entrepreneurs across Canada with developmental lending, business financing, and a range of support services to First Nations, Métis, and Inuit businesses in all provinces and territories. And some of the supports that they offer include things such as business loans, non-repayable contributions, financial management consulting, and business startup and aftercare services. And so over the last 30 years, the Aboriginal Financial Institution or AFI network has provided nearly $3 billion in support to over 50,000 small and medium-sized enterprises in Indigenous communities across Canada. And NACCA's board of directors is 100% Indigenous, and all of the entrepreneurs supported by our network belong to a First Nations, Métis, or Inuit community. And so our mandate at NACCA is to serve and support and advocate for the Aboriginal financial institutions. So we do a lot of advocacy work with the federal government. We also administer some of the programs that are delivered by the Aboriginal financial institutions, including the Indigenous Women Entrepreneurship program that we'll talk about today. And we also do things like capacity development. And really our vision here at NACCA is for Indigenous entrepreneurs to have access to equitable care and capital, and really to promote Indigenous economic development across the country. And in our latest strategic plan, which is actually just wrapping up this year, we identified one of our key priorities was to focus on increasing support for Indigenous women and youth. And so under our strategic plan, we had committed to using our own NACCA data and conducting additional research to help us identify the lending needs of both Indigenous women and youth entrepreneurs. And then we also wanted to develop different products and tailored programs that were accessed by Indigenous women and youth. And we also committed to enhancing the capacity of our Aboriginal financial institutions so that they could better serve women and youth in their regions. And we also committed to tracking the number and dollar values of loans that were being administered to women and youth across Canada. And so as part of our strategic plan to focus on supporting Indigenous women, we sought funding under the federal government's Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy back in 2019 so that we could really advance gender equality and women's economic empowerment by strengthening the supports that were available to Indigenous women through the entrepreneurship ecosystem and really close the gaps that women are facing in terms of trying to access capital to support their businesses. And so at the beginning of 2020, NACCA launched its Indigenous Women's Entrepreneurship Initiative with the goal of increasing the number of Indigenous women who were starting a business across Canada. And some of the activities under our Indigenous Women's Initiative was conducting research. So we launched an Indigenous Women's Entrepreneurship Survey, where we surveyed over 100 Indigenous women to really help us identify what are some of the challenges they're facing, what type of support are they looking for, and how can we better design our programs and services to meet their needs. We also started to develop gender-specific business tools and resources for Indigenous women, including things like self-assessment guides, financial literacy workbooks, and so on. And one of the things we developed about a year and a half ago was a microloan framework, because we recognized in our research that many Indigenous women were starting smaller, often home-based or part-time businesses. And often those businesses experience a lot more challenges in trying to access capital because they're often not full-time in their business, and many mainstream financial institutions, as well as some of our Aboriginal financial institutions, just don't offer microloans to really serve those types of businesses. And so, as I mentioned, we launched our initiative. We've been building these tools. We've been profiling Indigenous women who are succeeding in business. We have many profiles on our website, which I encourage you to check out. They're all very inspiring stories of Indigenous women in business. And we've been continuing to search for and advocate and build out programming for Indigenous women. And our vision for Indigenous women entrepreneurs, which was developed with input from the over 100 Indigenous women that completed our survey, is that we are secure, resilient Indigenous women entrepreneurs who are thriving in businesses that reflect our culture and values, that meet our family needs and lead our communities. In addition, we also established our goal for Indigenous women entrepreneurs for both NACCA and our Aboriginal Financial Institution Network. And our goal is that by 2025, we want to increase the number of Indigenous women who are accessing financing through our network by 50%. Based on our latest stats, so for the year of 2021, approximately 24% of all the businesses supported through our network were owned 100% by Indigenous women, and an additional 7% of those businesses were partially owned by Indigenous women. And so we have a lot to do to reach our goal. And in order to do this, we want to develop programs and develop tools and resources that are really going to help Indigenous women reach their entrepreneurial goals. And so that leads us to our Indigenous Women's Entrepreneurship Program that just recently launched on March 8th, so just over a month ago now. And this program really focuses on building the capacity of our Aboriginal Financial Institution Network, as well as developing these tools and programs specifically for Indigenous women to help them start or expand their businesses. And our Indigenous Women's Entrepreneurship program is really made up of 4 kind of main components. And so the first was making sure that our Aboriginal financial institutions who are delivering the program have a dedicated business support officer. So someone who's working within the organization that can do outreach in Indigenous communities, work with Indigenous women to help them, write their business plan, fill out an application for a loan, help facilitate different information sessions and trainings and workshops. And so we really felt that that dedicated business support officer was really key to then the rest of the program. So the second part is training and workshops for Indigenous women to help them start or grow their businesses. So the AFIs that are delivering the program will be offering a range of workshops throughout the year on a variety of different topics, such as, an introduction to entrepreneurship. So you can really learn about entrepreneurship to see if it's something that you're interested in or is a right fit. Also workshops on things like financial literacy and, managing your finances in your business, marketing workshops, and a variety of different content. And then the third component to our program is a microloan fund. So as I mentioned previously, we had established a framework for a microloan program, recognizing that Indigenous women who were starting smaller home-based or part-time businesses were experiencing a lot of difficulty when they were looking for financing for their business. And so with our microloan fund, Indigenous women now can access microloans up to $20,000 to help them start or grow their businesses. And then the fourth part of our Indigenous Women's Entrepreneurship program that we're actually currently building out and developing is a grant and mentorship program for Indigenous women. And so I want to spend the next couple of minutes just talking a little bit more on our microloan program and then the grant and mentorship program we're building out. Sorry, before I do that, I'll just talk around a little bit about the AFIs that are delivering the program. So this just gives you a sense of the AFIs across Canada that are delivering the program. And I also have a list of those AFIs at the end of the presentation, and we'll share a copy of this with you so you'll know exactly what AFIs out of the 59 are delivering the program. See, we have representation in just about every province and territory across Canada. So we have 4 of our Aboriginal financial institutions in Alberta delivering the program. We have 8 in British Columbia, 4 in Manitoba, 3 in the Northwest Territories, 1 in Nunavut, 5 in Ontario, 2 in Quebec, 3 in Saskatchewan, 1 in the Yukon, and then 1 in Atlantic Canada. So we actually only have 1 AFI that services all of the provinces in Atlantic Canada. So they're delivering the program and they have offices in the different provinces there. So in total, we have 32 out of the 59 Aboriginal financial institutions that are participating in delivering this program. And I think we're actually joined by one of our Aboriginal financial institutions today, Clarence Fund, which is based in Saskatchewan. And they service Métis entrepreneurs in the province. So maybe we'll have an opportunity to hear from Victoria, who's their business support officer, a little bit later. And next, I just wanted to share some of the expected outcomes and results of the program. So really the purpose of this program is to increase the percentage of Indigenous women who are accessing financing for their businesses. But we also want to ensure that Indigenous women have access to business tools and resources they need by way of workshops and trainings. And we also want to ensure that we're engaging Indigenous women so that they can access these different tailored support services. And so based on the 32 Aboriginal financial institutions that are delivering the program, we've provided some of the targets or potential results that we'll have over the next 2.5 years that the program is running. So as you can see, in terms of the number of workshops offered between the 32 Aboriginal financial institutions that are delivering the program, we estimate over 300 workshops will be delivered over the next 2.5 years. And we anticipate that over 800 microloans will be administered to Indigenous women entrepreneurs. So a little bit more on the microloan fund. So typically the average loan size or maximum loan size through the program will be $20,000. And AFIs will be able to provide Indigenous women with both repayable loan dollars as well as non-repayable contributions. So that means if you're accessing a loan through this program, there's opportunity to be able to get some money that you won't have to pay back. Very similar to grant dollars. One of the things we also have set out in our program guidelines is a reduced interest rate. So this interest rate will vary AFI to AFI, but the purpose is that it's reduced and it's based on the risk that AFIs perceive with each business that they're supporting. We also are looking for a minimum of 5% cash equity or in-kind contributions. And this again will vary from AFI to AFI, but the reason we ask for a minimum of 5% is because this shows us that the entrepreneurs also are willing to put a little bit of money towards the total financing package and that they have a bit of skin in the game sort of thing. And then the term for the microloans will range between 3 to 5 years. And again, this will vary with each AFI that's delivering the program. And in terms of our eligibility criteria for the microloan program, we will support businesses that are majority owned by Indigenous women entrepreneurs. So that means you need to own your business, have 51% ownership of your business. Businesses must also be for profit. You can be a sole proprietorship or incorporated or have a partnership, but you must be for profit, which means we are unable to support nonprofits through this program, and your business must operate in Canada. In terms of eligible projects, we'll be able to support capital projects that are involved in either the establishment or the expansion of a business that's aimed at generating revenue. And then in terms of eligible costs can be any cost that's necessary to carry out the project that are deemed reasonable. So that can include things such as external labor, capital costs such as equipment or renovations, operating and working capital costs, marketing and promotional materials, as well as advisory expenses. So if you were looking to hire a consultant to help you build out a part of your business, that would be an eligible cost, for example. And we have more information on the program, but as I mentioned, the way the microloan program will be delivered will look a little bit different in each AFI. So what I would encourage you to do if you're interested in the microloan component of the program would be to reach out to the Aboriginal Financial Institution or AFI that's delivering the program that services your region or province or territory. And then they can provide you with the exact information for how they're delivering the program and a little bit more on the application process, eligibility, and that sort of thing. But of course, we'll try to answer any questions you have today afterwards. The other part that I wanted to talk about was our grant and mentorship program. So as I mentioned earlier, we're currently building out this part of the program, and we anticipate that it'll launch in the next few months. And essentially what this will look like is a one-on-one grant and mentorship opportunity for Indigenous women. And we will match mentees and mentors together for a 3-month mentorship relationship. And we'll match them together based on the skills, knowledge, or expertise that mentees are looking for and that mentors have to offer. We're looking at approximately $2,500 that would be provided to the mentees by way of a grant. and that mentors will also be compensated for their time and commitment to the program. And so a little bit more on what we envision the program looking like. So in terms of eligibility criteria, it will be for Indigenous women entrepreneurs in terms of the mentees and grant recipients. Businesses, again, must be for profit and operate in Canada. And we're also specifically targeting pre-launch or very early stage development. And really, this could be an Indigenous women entrepreneur who just has a business idea, but needs a little bit of support to test their business idea, maybe establish a prototype of their product, and that sort of thing. And in terms of the application process, we're envisioning that it'll be a very simplified application process where Indigenous women could submit either a 500-word pitch or a 2-minute video that talks a little bit about who they are, what their business idea is, why it's innovative, and what problem it solves or demand it fills, and then how they intend to use the grant to support their business idea. And we're also asking for them to demonstrate that they do have the time to work on their business over the next 3 months. And so in terms of our assessment criteria, we really want to ensure that women are meeting this basic eligibility criteria, that their business idea does seem viable, and that they have demonstrated the commitment to their business. And this aspect of the program, the grant and mentorship piece, will be delivered by the Aboriginal Financial Institutions, the 32 that are delivering the Indigenous Women Entrepreneurship Program. And so they will be the ones that are working closely with women to help identify who would be a good candidate for this program, and then administer the grant and help with matching mentors and mentees together. But as I mentioned, this is still in development. So what I was hoping, if we have a little bit of time at the end, maybe we could hear from some of the participants on the call today on what they would like to see in a mentorship and grant program. And then we can take all of that feedback back with us as we build out the program. And that's basically all I had to share with you today on our Indigenous Women's Entrepreneurship Program. As I mentioned, we just recently launched last month, and many of our Aboriginal financial institutions are working very hard to roll out the program. We did share, like I said, in the presentation, which will be shared with everyone afterwards, a list of AFIs delivering the program. So I won't go through each AFI here, but we'll make sure that this is made available to you so you can help identify which AFI in your region is delivering the program. And I think, yeah, we can open it up for questions, or if there's just general comments, we're happy to take them now.